This Cody's Bait and Tackle, Warsaw, Missouri. I want to do a little something a little bit different this morning. I just want to talk about fall fishing in general. Uh, kind of patterns, how the patterns change, and this will be for most of the main lake. Uh, kind of talk about the lake turning over, which with the warm temperatures we've been having, it's going to be a little while. Normally, it varies on temperature. Usually, that lake will turn over somewhere in the low to upper 60s. Just somewhere in the 60s, it will turn over. That makes a big difference in your fishing. Usually, once you start getting these fall winds, that'll blow them white bass and hybrids up on them banks. That's one of the funnest fall bites there is. If you can get a good windy evening or a good windy morning, catch them white bass and hybrids up on them wind-blown points and banks. You can throw jigs, top water. My biggest hybrid actually come from one of the points right above the dam throwing off the bank. I wasn't even out of a boat. It was almost 15 pounds. That was the biggest one I've personally caught. I've had bigger caught out of my boat, but not by me. Chug bugs, any kind of small top water is usually what I did the best on that. Or you can use rooster tails, vibrix, anything that you can work real shallow, because sometimes them fish will be up in a foot or two of water. They'll be right up on that bank. I have not seen any of that yet this year. I would say this cold weather this week will probably push some white bass up shallow in the next week or so. I think we need about a 10-degree drop on our water for sure. 10 to 15 degree. And then they'll stay on the bank sometimes until that water temperature's in the low 50s. We've caught them up into November throwing top waters on the banks. That's a whole lot of fun. When the lake turns over, everybody thinks, oh, the fishing falls apart and the fish don't bite and you just can't catch them. Well, the lake don't all turn over quite at the same time. So you might have to move around some, fish different areas. It does mess up where you're at or where it turns over for a few days, but then them fish get used to it fairly fast. We'll just figure by the third or fourth day after I can really tell it's turned over hard, which usually it's probably more like a week after. I'll be catching fish there, catfish wise. Crappie, they'll move a little bit deeper. They'll move off to some of the bluffs and get off the mud flats. And so far, I've seen a few guys fishing the bluffs. Haven't seen them do any good yet. They're catching a few, but not catching limits by no means. They'll be 20 to 25 foot on the main lake and down 15 to 20 foot usually. Sometimes they'll move down right off bottom. You'll have to drop a jig 20 to 25 foot right off the bottom, raise it up a little bit, and catch your crappie that way. Catfish, the drift bite will go deeper for the most part. As soon as that lake turns over, I will start drift fishing anywhere from 25 to 50 foot of water. Just running cut baits. I'll run some live baits because your big fish are out in that deep water. That's why you don't catch them very much during the summertime. They're out there suspended, trying to find a cool pocket to stay in. They're not real active. When that lake turns over, they go down to the bottom and start feeding for fall. That's why I always tell everybody from mid-November to March is when I catch most of my big catfish. Summertime is usually pretty rough on trying to target big fish. Unless you can hit a real good bite, drift fishing up on the other end of the lake, Tally Bend area or Sparrowfoot, deep water up in there. Sometimes you can catch some big ones up there in the middle of summer. This year's been really slow up there. Them fish have been hit hard. And the low water, I think it's pushed a lot of them fish down the lake further. We have no water flow at all through the lake. North of us did get a little bit of rain yesterday, so I would expect for them to run a little bit of water this week, but probably not much to make a difference. The thermocline right now, it's real spotty. Some areas you see it, some areas you don't, but all them fish are staying suspended. 30 foot's about the deepest I've seen fish anywhere. There is some places on Lake Ozarks that there is no thermocline at all. I grabbed a few catfish yesterday down in 40 foot of water down there, so that I would say that Lake Ozarks will probably turn over further down, or the mid section of Lake Ozarks will probably turn over first from the looks of it this year. There's a lot of fish hanging around that 30 foot mark right now. Even out in that deeper water, you could distinctly see the line of fish where the most oxygen was and that cooler water was. You couldn't see any thermocline at all on your fish finder, but there was still some there. Bass, they'll work back in your pockets and stuff. Them bass guys love it when them shad all go shallow. They can hit them on spinner baits and stuff like that during the fall really good. Top waters, that's where you get your really good top water bite usually, is once that water temperature starts to cool off. And it'll last till it's in the low 50s, mid 50s. And the same way with the drift fishing for catfish. I usually quit drift fishing in the upper 50s just because the numbers go down. But you can actually catch the bigger fish down to upper 40 degree water temperature. I usually, when I've got clients out, I try to target numbers and big fish during the fall. So I can't go fish all day for a few fish. I want to see them take home a good mess of eaters. So I'll try to target them numbers as soon as that water temperature hits mid to upper 50s. And then you can usually tie up and fish a channel ledge or fish a stump field or something like that, and you can catch all them eaters you want, usually. Upper ends of the lake is a little bit different. Them fish don't have deep water to go to. Them fish will stay shallow. Tally Bend side, most of them will push down into the channel or the deeper areas along the tree rows, ledges. That's where most of them fish will go. Sparrowfoot, them fish will always stay shallow. Deep water area, them fish will always stay shallow. They have nowhere else to go. Unless they push way down the lake and up there with no current, them fish don't even know which direction they're going. So, I think that's one reason why the fishing's been so slow up there this year. Just no current flow to move them fish around. They're just roaming everywhere. And I can kind of see that on the main lake too. You know, where fish are today, they will not be there tomorrow. There's nothing to hold them there without that current. It's been really weird. Hopefully this fall picks up a little bit. Hopefully them fish get moved down a little bit deeper and more consistent once they move down deeper. So, if you guys got any questions or anything, just comment on here. I'll try to make another video, post it. And once that lake does get to that point, I will make another special video on that. One thing I always hear, oh, the lake's turning over. During the fall, you get a lot of algae because the water temperature is up and down, up and down, up and down. That creates algae blooms. The upper Osage for sure has some areas with some major algae blooms in it. I've seen some major algae blooms on Lake Ozarks in areas too right now. Them shad are all in it. Them shad are having a heyday eating on that algae. Not a lot of fish with them though. Them areas that I've seen a lot of algae didn't hardly have anything for fish, just a lot of bait. I haven't been all the way up to Tally Bend. I talked to Chad Short this week. He was up there a couple days, and he said it looked like the water was doing something funny up there, turning funny colors. So I would say that was that we haven't had enough rain to do it, so that was definitely the algae bloom. It's not quite time for it to turn over yet. It'll probably be the middle of October for sure. But another 2 weeks hopefully. We got several nights this week supposed to drop down in the 40s. That will help a lot. I've seen the water temperature or water turnover around 68, 70 degrees usually. So this week should drop it pretty good. It's supposed to warm up today, and then after that it's supposed to be mid to upper 70s just about every day this week, and lows in the upper 40s, lower 50s. So a few rains would really help out. But like I said, if y'all got any questions, want to know anything else about Truman or Lake of the Ozarks, I fish every bit of Truman. There's not any of it really I haven't fished. There's blue cat absolutely all over that lake. That's why I've fished pretty much all of it. And I do fish Lake of the Ozarks down to about the 45-mile marker. That's really about the furthest I go. Sometimes down a little bit lower to the 40 maybe, but there's not much sense in going that far. You got the same fish as you got at the 45 at the 40. So not much big change there. Bollinger Creek up, them big creeks right now. The fish had pulled up in them. This week they all pulled back out with the water temperature coming back up. So all the bait pulled back out to the main water. All the fish left. So that made it a little bit rougher down there. During the fall, a lot of the time, them fish will pull up in them creeks and chase the bait and chase the algae up in there. The shad will, but everything's changed down there quite a bit this last week as soon as that water temperature started coming back up. So hopefully this week will get everything back on track and everybody will get back to catching fish. I appreciate it, y'all. Have a good one.